Thank you, Chad. Well, show and tell. I can't tell you how much I've been wanting to tell this story today, because next year, big news, we're going to go to what's called Gen 3, Generation 3, a new era of cars for supercars. The cars are going to be big, muscular, less downforce. The drivers are going to have to do a lot more. It's a really exciting time, and I'm going to take you on the journey this year with me. We're going to talk much more about all those things during the year. But I thought before we even go there, I've got to take you back to take you on the journey so it gives it context. How have we arrived here and why? So come with me. Let's go on that journey right back to 1960, Appendix J. When we started racing the Australian Touring Car Championship, they were modified sedans. So they were kind of standard tin, if you like, but they hotted up the shock absorbers and the motors. And the first race we ever had, one race only for the Australian Touring Car Championship, was at Newblower at Orange, just out of Orange. And if you're an Aussie like me, I'd call it GNU Blast, mate, right? So that's where it all started. And I tell you, whoever was responsible for David Mackay's Jaguar that won it has got something to answer for it, seriously. So, at the same time, a couple of years later, we needed to account for the showroom cars, the cars that were being driven out because the manufacturers were trying to sell them, right? So they had a set of rules for that. Here's Colin Bond at Oran Park in a sort of a production-based sedan. That's a little Isuzu Bullet. Look at that, any wonder Bondi turned out being a rally driver. Whoever built that's got something to answer for. So we blaze on. But important to note, these rules were the precursor to what was going to happen at Bathurst. Now, you need to understand at this point, things were getting red hot, right? The racing was getting serious, so we designed a new set of rules from 65 to 72 called Improved Production. So these were production-based cars, but seriously modified. And the first ATCC race was won right here with a V8 engine, edited in 1965 with Norm Beachy, before he jumped in a Mustang. But this era was a golden era of touring car racing for me, because it was the the Mustang versus the Camaro era. Notchbacks, fastbacks. These were big, brutal cars. And this was different to Bathurst. This was a touring car championship. It was different. But at the same time, particularly in the late 60s, the Bathurst legend started to emerge. And this got tricky because when Freddie Gibson and Harry Firth won in that XR-GT in 1967, that set off a chain reaction. So Holden responded with a 350 Monaro. Bondi, they won the next year. Then Ford responded with Phase 2 and Phase 3 Falcons. And then it all got so red hot that Ford did this. They built this thing called a Phase 4, and you had to build a minimum of 200 of them sold to the public before you could race them. This thing was a race car, so the government, the media stepped in and said, enough, we can't do that anymore. You can't sell these things to the public. So it stopped. So after that, they gathered it all up into what were, from 73 to 84, Group C touring cars. We all know them well. As young girls and guys, we watch these things. Brocky's VC Commodores. There you go, Dickie Johnson in an XD, the big XC Falcons, A9X Tiranas. These were beautiful cars, the big bangers we called them, didn't we? But early in the 80s, this started to happen. There's Brocky, what is it, a VK? And Moffat's little Mazda, rotary Mazda, the Turbo Bluebird Fury. BMW came along. So that then grew into an international formula called Group A. They were doing this all around the world. You remember the Sierras, Godzilla, Scafie was in that. Brocky's Group A, the Commodores were still there. But as Aussies, we said, we actually don't want that. You know what we want? We want to do this. And we did. So 93, 94, and by 95, we were back exclusive Holden Commodore versus Ford Falcon with V8 engines. And I love this bit. So we blaze along a little bit further because the stakes went up and there was so much at stake regarding sales of cars. We had what were called parity wars. It was ugly. You've got more downforce. You've got more power. So to get around that problem, we designed what was called Project Blueprint, which was a new platform so you could still kind of put the road-going type car build on a platform that was much more equalised. And we had lots of years of great racing. And it also reduced the cost. But we go along and the manufacturers wanted to get involved again, particularly Volvo and Nissan. So we designed another platform car of the future that was a bit more modernised, allowed their platforms to fit our platform, and away we went. But again, we get a couple of years in, and you know what? The demise of Aussie manufacturing, but we just love the V8s, right? So Holden Commodore, we continued to race. Ford and Holden, which were building cars at Broadmeadows in Melbourne there. We had to come up with a platform to allow for a Mustang. Now, as you can see, we had to sort of play with the shape of the Mustang to make it fit our platform. So to get around that program now and to make things even better for the future and account for the market that we live in today, we've done this for 2022. I wanted to roll out this page. Hardcore racing. Big, brutal, muscular cars that are much more representative. The skin of these cars absolutely represents the skin of the cars on the road car. They're going to be hard to drive. They're going to be in your face. They're going to be loud. They're going to be fast. And my favourite bit that I've wanted to do all day is this. We're going back to the future, right? 1969, 70, 71, Mustang versus Camaro. Who would have thought? Now look at this. Look at this. How cool is that, eh? Now don't go. I'm going to do this for another 30 minutes. Let's do it again. Let's go a little bit slower. How good's that? I'm just going to stay here and do that all day. Isn't that beautiful? We should be. Oh, wow, Jess.